A ton of people today still believe that you should keep your saturated fat intake low, and whatever fat you do consume should be in the form of supposedly heart-healthy polyunsaturated fat. But would it shock you to find out that increasing your polyunsaturated fat intake dramatically increases your odds of getting cancer? And the government has known that since 1980, yet continued to promote the consumption of polyunsaturated fat. By 1980, study after study after study involving a dietary increase in polyunsaturated fat was coming back with the result that cancer rates went up substantially. By reducing saturated fat and replacing it with polyunsaturated fat, primarily from vegetable oil, your odds of getting colon cancer tripled, and your odds of getting all forms of cancer doubled. But there was a problem with that finding, a political problem. The United States government had just declared its official policy was that you needed to decrease saturated fat, which comes predominantly from animal sources, and offset that reduction with an increase in polyunsaturated fat, which come predominantly from what is inaccurately pitched to you on the grocery store shelves as vegetable oil. Having just declared that the entire nation should increase its polyunsaturated fat intake, the finding from these multiple studies was completely unwelcome. You might think, given the dramatic increase in the odds of getting cancer, the government might have said, wait, hang on, we may have gotten that wrong, hold off on the whole polyunsaturated fat thing until we get more data. Whoo, that's a good one. So what did the government do? Acting through the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, which is one of the various institutes within the National Institutes of Health, all of which are federal agencies operating under the Department of Health and Human Services, what the government did was dig up a single 10-year-old Norwegian study that used dubious methods, but which stated the opposite conclusion. Despite being in possession of numerous credible studies showing an increase in polyunsaturated fat dramatically increases the odds of getting cancer, based on that single questionable Norwegian study, the government pronounced the science on that issue was inconclusive, and therefore there was no reason to inform the American people about it. Since then, despite billions of dollars being spent on cancer prevention and treatment, the cancer rate in the U.S. has increased exponentially. And during all these years, as the cancer rate was exploding, the U.S. government has continued to advise Americans to reduce saturated fats and increase polyunsaturated fat. Without getting into a lot of detail that would make this a very long video, I'll just say that the push for reduction in saturated fat, which then led to the idea of increasing polyunsaturated fat, was questionable from the start, with many scientists saying the U.S. government had jumped to conclusions the science did not support. So, in 1980, the government proposed a course of action for all Americans that the science did not support, while contriving an excuse to ignore results about a dramatic increase in cancer that the science did support. And then the government continued to advise you to do that thing which dramatically increases your odds of cancer all the way until this very moment. Yeah, the government still says to get most of your dietary fat in the cancer-promoting polyunsaturated fat form. I consider it a public service to share this video because so many people still believe the now completely disproven theory that saturated fat will give you heart disease and kill you, and still believe that to be healthy they should be consuming lots of polyunsaturated fat. If you'd like to save some lives, please share this video.